My salutations to all of you. Welcome back to our Gita ODC live sessions. Today we are going to discuss Shloka, very famous Shloka, one of the most misunderstood Shloka, also Shloka 22. So let's get started. First of all, let's ground ourselves as we always do. We are discussing the second topic of the second chapter. If you think about the second chapter, the first portion of the second chapter talks about the fundamental human problem Bhagavad Gita is addressing. And then second section, which is from Shloka 11 to 25, talks about who am I? What am I? It's basically trying to understand myself. That is why we termed it as self-knowledge. That is the topic we are in. And in the previous shloka, previous session, we talked about Najayate Mriyateva, that shloka, and also Veda Vinashinam Nityam. These were the two shlokas we covered. Obviously, Najayate Mriyate was covered a little bit earlier. Essentially, we were talking about the nature of the Atma. Again, just 2 minutes recap. It's extremely important. We are talking about the highest dimension of ourselves, who we are. It's not that you don't know yourself. We all know yourself, because consciousness in you is self-evident. I don't have to tell you that you are conscious. The very fact that you are listening this lecture indicates that you are conscious. But the problem is, are you conscious about your full dimension? Even in a dream, you are conscious, but your identity is pretty much limited and restricted to that dream body and the dream mind. So just like that, we are conscious of ourselves. We have some self-knowledge about ourselves. And what Krishna is saying is that that knowledge is not complete. You know only a little bit of yourself. You don't know the full depth and breadth of yourself. And when you know that, every problem will disappear. This is the ultimate destination. And every sadhana in the Gita is a step towards that direction. So the whole idea is, the goal is yourself. You are trying to discover yourself. How? If the knowledge is the solution, right? If the ignorance is the problem, the solution is the knowledge. So we have been discussing this in the previous class also. Yes, this is a theoretical knowledge to all of you. Tattvamasi, Ahamatma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma, all that is given to us by the sages. And to a certain extent, because after studying Gita this much, at least theoretically you can appreciate it, because the examples were very solid. But that is not my direct experience at this point of time. It's exactly like in a dream, somebody is coming and telling you that you have an identity beyond this dream. Even if you get sick in the dream, it is okay. Even if something happens to you in the dream, yes, you have an identity. You have a larger identity. And the entire dream, including other people, including the objects, including the plant, including everything else in the dream, is in fact you yourself. Your consciousness, your mind, is what is manifested as the entire dream universe. Theoretically, you may say that it is okay. But is that what your real experience? This is what the Vedanta tells. So this nature of the Atma was the discussion of our topic. We identified a few dimensions of Atma. The first dimension was Atma is Satyaha. Satyaha means Atma is the Sat. It is the fundamental building block of everything else in this universe. In the dream, everything in the dream is nothing but your mind. The waker's mind is manifested as the entire dream, not just your dream body, even the other people you see, everything traces back to the waker's mind. So you have an existence beyond this time and space, and that transcendental existence is everything. So that is what is the first point. Atma is Satya. And what is the definition of Satya? We talked about that extensively in Shloka 16. Right? Satya means Trikala Abhaditam Satyam. That is the technical term used in Vedanta. That which was there in the past, that which is there in the present, that which is there in the future. That is Satya. It is, time cannot touch it. Even the time exists in that. That is the first point. Then what? Atma Nityaha. Atma will not die. Like the body is, so whatever that meaning dying, it is not the Atma. Then Atma Avyayaha. It's not that Atma is not born or dead. Atma is changeless. Changeless. It's not that yesterday, like I had like 140 pound, today I have 145 pound, right? It can happen. But nothing will change in Atma. It's absolutely changeless. Borrowing the technical term, we said षट्भाव विकार अस्ति जायते वर्धते विपरिणमते आपक्षीयते प्रणश्यति. Nothing is there for Atma. So whatever that is changing is not Atma. That is not your true self. Then what is that? Atma, Atma Satyah, Atma Nityah, Atma Avyayah. The next definition is Avinashi. Atma is indestructible. Nobody can destroy Atma. Even Ishvara cannot destroy Atma, because Ishvara himself is Atma or herself is Atma. So that's the next point. Then Atma Sarvagataha. It's all pervading. Imagine that dream. The mountains in that dream, the sky in the dream, everything in that dream is pervaded by the waker's mind. Just like that, the Atma pervades everywhere. Right? Then what is that? Atma Ekaha. There is only one Atma. These are the different dimensions of Atma discussed in this shloka. And this is the subject matter of all the Upanishads. So any Upanishad you study, this is what you learn. I wanted to point out one more thing. So you see, right, the focus here is not an Ishvara outside above the sky, not an Ishvara, not a God. So in this chapter, the focus is you, right? Krishna is talking about the Atma. So that is why the first 6 chapter of the Gita, if you take the first 6 chapter of the Gita, the predominant focus of that first 6 chapter is me or you. And the second 6 chapter of the Gita, the main focus, it's not that the other topics are not covered, but the main subject matter, the main focus is Ishvara, the law that governs this entire universe, the intelligent order of the universe, Ishvara. And if you take that final 6th chapter, it shows a connection between that divine and me. So if you think about the Bhagavad Gita, it is an expansion of that Mahavakya called Tattvamasi. This is how the 6 chapters is divided. Those who are studying in our class, they know this very well because we covered that second portion. So you know the Ishvara was touched again and again and again. So having said this, Krishna said that, just concluded, Najayate mriyate va. This Atma is never born, it will not die. Nayam bhuktva bhavita vana bhuyaha. Having ceased to exist, meaning having born, it never ceased to exist. Ajaha, it's not born. Nityaha, it's like always there. Shashwataha, it is like ever, it is there, it is changeless. Nahanyate hanyamane shariri. When the body is destroyed, the Atma is not destroyed. And then in the next shloka, he said, Veda vinashinam nityam, yayenam ajam avyayam, katham sa purusha partha, kam khatayati hantikam. So those who knows this Atma as their true identity, he is neither an agent of the action nor the object of the action. In the dream, what you did, like let's say that you gave $1 million to another person. Who is the giver and who is the receiver from the waking man's standpoint of view? Both was me, because it's my own mind. So from that transcendental perspective, there is neither doer nor enjoyer. Everything is only one reality. We get confused because you have to understand from which point of view you are taking. If you are looking at the point of view of the worldly point of view, everything is different. Plurality is the nature of the world, right? And also it is subjected to time, it is subjected to space, everything is there. But if the point of view changed, and the Gita talks here from the point of view of that transcendental truth, from that perspective, everything is one. But from the worldly perspective, the whole world is many. See, in Malayalam, there is a beautiful poetry called Harinama Kirtanam. It is written by Tunjat Ezhuthachan, who is the father of the Malayalam language, and he is the one who wrote the Adhyatma Ramayana also, and all the translation. He, in this Harinama Kirtanam, he prays to Lord. What is that? You are only one, but I see as very, like many forms. So he say, truly you are one, but I see as many. And I'm confused to identify you, that one you in that many. This is brilliantly explained. This is the idea. Now, having said that, Krishna said, na jayate, na mriyate. And what is happening at the time of death? So that is clarified with a brilliant example, one of the most often quoted example of the Bhagavad Gita. What happens at the time of death? It's a logical flow. So that is what is Shloka 22. Before I get into Shloka 22, let's see if Avanti had any comment on the introduction. Otherwise, we can get, after that, we can get into Shloka 22.
Yeah, just I wanted to request all of you from the book to take down all these Sanskrit terms that Rajeshji was saying, ajaha, shashvataha. Just take it down and understand the meaning, because once you write it down yourself, the Sanskrit and the English meaning, then these qualities of Atma become very known to you. And once you know the qualities of Atma, that is what we have to meditate on, because that is the only way that we can start feeling resonance with these qualities. So suppose if you're sick, and you think of the quality of Shashvata, like, it does not change, then there's an immediate disconnection from being, carried away in that. So it's very important to get the Sanskrit in your mind, and also the English transliterations, just get them into your mind so that you are able to meditate on something. Another very important thing before we get into this shloka, 22nd, I'll just tell you one example. Suppose if in your dream, you are going to get a Padma Bhushan award. Okay, the dream is happening. You've really worked hard through this life. You've always wanted some recognition. You've never had that recognition. And one day you go to sleep and lo and behold, you get a letter in your dream that you're going to get this Padma Bhushan award. And in the dream, you are so excited. You share the thing with your family, the whole news. The whole family goes to Delhi. You all are all sitting in Rashtrapati Bhavan, which is the most mind-blowing place on earth. It really is. And you are waiting for your name to be called out. All this is happening in your dream. And in your dream, suddenly, your name has just started being announced. And the next Padma Bhushan goes to, let's say, Guru, about to say your name, and just then your child barges into the room and wakes you up from the dream. And you wake up with a start. For 1 minute, you'll be between those two worlds. Oh my God, like, where's the Padma Bhushan and where am I? The next minute, you will burst out laughing because you're sitting on your bed. You have to catch whatever transportation you're going to take. You're going to go to work. Before that, you have to deal with these 3, 4, 5, 6 kids that you have. And the Padma Bhushan is but a dream. Now, when you remember, if you remember, we spent a lot of time on Krishna's smile in chapter 1, where Krishna was just smiling while Arjuna was giving his whole, this is happening and that is happening, and Pitru will not get this, because there was a question in the question answer chat about Pitrus and Shraddha and all that. This will happen and that will happen. Krishna is just smiling. If you go to any guru in this day who's actually worth his name or her name, when you are relating your problems, of course they are empathetic with what you're going, because this suffering is needless. But behind that empathy, you'll see a glint in their eyes, which will be like, what the hell is wrong with you? What are you being caught up in? Because they know that it is just a dream in which you are going to get the Padma Bhushan. Nothing of it is real. So to understand this very, very properly is that while, and we've given that whole insistence in our previous classes, that you have to take life seriously. You have to take it seriously because it is our relative reality right now. So you can't say, oh, I'm Atma, so nothing matters. No, you'll really ruin this life. And the only way to get towards Atma is by living this life right. You can only live this life right if you are able to take it seriously enough. But at the back of the mind, in the foreground, you have to start entertaining these qualities of Atma that we have been explaining in Sanskrit. That you have to have ajaha, I'm never born, I'm never going to die, I'm nitya, I'm eternal, I am all pervasive, I'm omniscient, I'm omnipresent. All of that, you have to start entertaining it to be able to live this life right. Forget about self-realization. That is prudential. That happens when it happens. That's providential. But you cannot not start meditating on this. So every day, if you can take one of those words that we've already explained in such great details over 3 classes and just meditate, I am that, you will start seeing the difference in that. And you will start taking this dream as a relative dream. Like, yes, I have to do the right things, but it is not that serious. There's that famous quote, right? Don't take life so seriously, you're not going to get out of it alive. And that is the ultimate truth. We take this one life so seriously and ruin it for ourselves. So just to keep that in mind before we go into the second, 22nd verse, because that's where you'll understand what is exactly moving forward and what we're getting caught up in over here.
So
न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे वेदा विनाशिनं नित्यं ययेनमजमव्ययम् कथं स पुरुषः पार्थ कं घातयति हन्तिकम् वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि.
you would have noticed the change in meter. That is why I played the previous shloka also. So at certain places in the Bhagavad Gita, when Vyasa wanted to highlight something or something is changing, something is not like shifting, a topic is changing or a different matter wanted to be highlighted, that is the time the meter changes. Through that meter change, Vyasa indicates something. Remember, we are talking about 5,000 years back. There was no highlighter, there was not even a book at that point of time. So only through this metrical change, you see that change or highlighting everything. So that's one point. So here the meter changes from Anushtup to a shorter version called Anushtup to Trishtup. So Vasamsi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya. This is a very popular, often quoted. Most of the people quote this. When people pass away, people even like tell this, like sometimes even out of context also, but understand this. So we know that the Atma is deathless, but because look at the previous shloka, Atma is birthless, deathless, changeless, all pervading, like immovable, everything. Then we know for sure that something is dying. We know that something is transmigrating. What exactly is that? That is exactly what is described by the Atma. Sorry, this particular shloka. So he tells, just as a person discards the old worn out clothes, vasamsi jirnani. The word jirna means like worn out. Vasamsi means the clothes. So just like somebody replaces the old clothes and takes new one, navani, then grihnati naroparani. The human being just take the new, just remove the old clothes and take a new cloth. Just like that. Then, like that, the embodied self, Dehi. Dehi here is not Atma, like the subtle body. Remember, we talked about the three body. The subtle body sheds the physical body, jirnani sharirani, the subtle body, move out of the physical body, navani sharirani, takes a new physical body. So, in this shloka, we are not talking about Atma at all. Yeah, we can compare Atma and the other stuff. So, just like a person changes his clothes, just like that, the subtle body takes new clothes. So the death is not an end. When you talk about the death, the only entity that is coming to an end is your physical body only, not even the subtle body. The subtle, at the time of the death, we can say that the physical body dies, the subtle body transmigrates, and nothing happens to Atma. This is the whole point. You need to understand this very clearly. So let's deep dive a little bit more into this shloka. So the whole idea is, let me just show you a small picture. This is the at a glance. Just as a person casts off the worn out clothes for the new one, the subtle body discards the old physical body at death and adopts a new one at birth, while the Atma remains unaffected and unchanged. We added that line to clarify because sometimes people think that Atma transmigrates. So this is not in the shloka. We added that context there for you because this context comes from the previous shloka. So that is what the at a glance section does. At a glance, we will make it self-sufficient for you to understand, because if you don't read this shloka without connecting with the previous shloka, what exactly is the previous shloka tells? Ajaha, nityaha, shashwataha, najayate, mriyate. So if you combine that last statement, without that last statement, Atma remains unaffected and unchanged. This is very important to point out. I have seen commentaries after commentaries. People are talking, Atma transmigrates. It is not Atma that transmigrates. It's only the subtle body that transmigrates. This is something that we need to correct. Sometimes we need to unlearn the learning we had and relearn this. This is very important. So let's see that in a quick table. So this is what happens. At the time of death, what happened to physical body? Because we talked about the three bodies earlier. Physical body, sthula sharira, subtle body, sukshma sharira, Atma, the consciousness. I'm not talking about the karma sharira at all here because it is not relevant here. So what happens? What is the nature of the physical body? It is tangible. It is visible. It is made of the five elements. I know that in Saundarya Lahari, somebody asked, we have 105 elements. What is the meaning of five elements? Five elements is only a model. Model means you wanted to represent something, you can represent it with the world of physical universe. For the ancient worldview, it was represented through these 5 elemental model. Earth, you can see that it as, so you can think about that as the states of matter. If you really think about the material world, you could see something solid, you could see something in the liquid form, and you could see something in the gaseous form, and you could see the particles are far apart. That state is known as plasma. And you can see, like, that is the 4 states of matter the physics talks about. But there is, Vedanta tells, there is another subtle state which is called space, which is completely empty. Olden terms, they used to refer a term called ether, but we know that ether doesn't exist. This is empty space, empty space. This is what it is. So this world of physical matter, it can be touched, it is visible, it is tangible. And what happens at the time of death? It dies. It just dismantles itself into the 5 elements. That is what is happening. And what happens to the subtle body or the Sukshma Sharira? The Sukshma Sharira, we talked about 19 components, if you remember. Otherwise, please listen to that previous talk. Subtle body is made up of subtle matter. We had extensive discussion on what is physical body and subtle body. Subtle body, we said it is like the software, whereas the physical body is like hardware. The software, so here you have 19 components of the subtle body. What are they? The 5, the ability to perceive, right? The 5 sense organs ability. It's not the physical organ. It is, so let's say that, I'll explain that with a simple example. Suppose you have a webcam, right? You all have webcam. That is why I'm seeing you. I have a webcam. There is a physical component of that webcam. And there is a subtle component for that webcam. What is that subtle component? It is a software driver. If it is the driver that gives this webcam to perceive. If that software is not there, if that driver is not there, your webcam will not function. Correct? So like that, we have an eyes, we have an ears, we have tongue, we have all these sense organs are there. But there is a subtle component. The power of the eye. You can say that the eye of the eye, the mind, the ear of the ear. There is a subtle component. So 5 organs of perception has 5 subtle component. 5 organs of action has 5 subtle component. We can, just like the software driver, this is what it is. So 5 plus 5, 10. Then a consolidated coordinator of all these activities known as manas, or the mind. That is also subtle. Again, it is not the brain. The brain will not transmigrate because brain belongs to the physical world, but the underlying capacity, the subtle component, that is what is the manas here. And the intellect, the intelligence there, intelligence is what? It is the stored pattern within the mind. And the artificial intelligence came, everybody knows what is intelligence now. It is the stored pattern you learned from the experiences. That is also subtle. And then, so mind, intellect, and that sense of I-ness. Again, that is a subtle component. It is that subtle component gives you the feeling that I exist. So that is the ahankara. So 5 plus 5, then mind, intellect, ahankara, 13, and then the pancha prana. Pancha prana means the ability, like again, these are subtle components. Your blood has to be circulated. So there is a subtle component of that. The heart is physical, but the ability, that software, which controls the movement of everything. There are pancha prana, prana, vyana, apana, udana, samana. So 5, 5, 5, 15, plus these 3, 19. And finally, there is another component called chitta. Chitta means it is the storage of these subtle impression. This is the subtle body. And these subtle body transmigrates. How? According to the law of karma. When the physical body dies, this subtle body will transmigrate to a new body. Just like compare the subtle body here as the me here, the entity, right? And the shirt mentioned in the book is the physical body. So what is the death? I remove that old shirt and takes a new shirt. So just like that, the subtle body removes leaves the old physical body and moves to take a new physical body. What exactly is the new physical body? Where I'm going to born? All that is determined by the complex law of karma. I promise you, once we get into Shloka 25, we will take a pause and we will analyze the law of karma in detail. So you will get that whole idea. So according to the law of karma, it transmigrates. And now what happens to Atma? Nothing. Atma, nothing happened to Atma because Atma will not move, Atma will not change, Atma will not be born, Atma will not be died. This is the idea. This is the whole idea of this shloka. So he just wanted to reconcile with what is happening in the world outside, what you see, because the nature of the Atma is described. He don't want us to get confused with what is happening in the world. And also what we hear, because we always hear about transmigration or the reincarnation. Don't think that it is the reincarnation of the Atma, Satchidananda Atma. So that is why this shloka is inserted at this point with a different meter, so that this is a different concept from that train of thought of the Atma. So that is why it is highlighted. You can see that only for the shloka this meter is used, and he will come back to the normal meter and continue the discussion of Atma. So that is how it is. So the next point here is, this is the actually in the diagram we used in the book. So the physical body dies, subtle body transmigrates, and the physical body get a new life. Atma, represented by the Om, unaffected. This is the essence of this shloka. So let me see if there is any other topic point to cover. So we talked about, yeah. So this is only one more point I want to cover, and then I will pass this to Avanti. So you may ask, like a 10-year-old is dying. When you hear the worn out cloth, vasamsi jirnani, that word creates confusion to a lot of people. Shankaracharya, with his brilliance, he answers that in the shloka. Who determines it is old? Some people changes their car every year. Some people use it for 15 years. Some people changes their iPhone every year. Every year when a new iPhone comes, that like a September when the new release, they give the old one up and give it to them. So it is the individual and the karma that determines whether the body is old or ready to be replaced. That is one point. Okay, let me pass to Avanti.
I think you've covered it brilliantly, Rajeshji, especially the subtle body elements. There's so many, and it always amuses me when people say, oh, there are 105 elements and all of that. Quick question. Do you have any control over those 105 elements? Do you even know where they exist? So, time and again, my teacher always tells me, when we are sitting with the Gita, let's just sit with the Gita. If we go into Upanishadic wisdom too much while studying the Gita, we miss the point of the Gita, which is to live our lives correctly so that we automatically graduate to those Upanishadic wisdoms. Even when you talk about lokas, you'll see for yourself in the Gita how Krishna addresses this whole problem. He sticks with what the problem is in front of him, even when he talks about what happens after death. Upanishads will say that hundreds of lokas, Bhuloka, Bhuvaloka, Swahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyam Loka. He doesn't go to all that. He just briefly talks about some Brahmaloka and brings you back to earth, that you're going to come here till you finish the lessons over here. So stick to what the Gita is saying as much as possible so that the life can be lived properly. That's one thing. Now, this verse is very, very intense, very beautiful. If you just go to the verse, just as a person discards old, worn out clothes, it begins with that. There was a question in the Q&A which said, is it painful? Is that transition painful? For the fact that so unequivocally Krishna has compared it to changing of clothes. Krishna has compared it to changing of clothes. We are not comparing it. Think, very important point to think over here. Is changing of clothes painful for you? And I'll buy you into one more thought. It is actually painful. It's not saying just changing of clothes, it's saying discarding of clothes. I know hundreds of people who clothes that are so worn out, so old, they haven't even worn it, but it is in their cupboard because of attachment. Oh, this is how I bought it. This is when I bought it. So difficult to throw away those things, not only clothes, throw away those things that we are so attached to, which we don't need, which we do not use, and which is just occupying space. Now think, if we are not able to discard, quote unquote, things and clothes that are of no use, that we have outgrown, just because of attachment, what is it that is painful when we are dying or when somebody else is dying? It's the attachment. The process itself, to answer that question from the Q&A, is painless. Now, this I can experientially say to a certain extent. Two of my very good friends are doulas, death doulas. You know what's a death doula? Just as we have birth doulas or midwives who help a person deliver children into the earth, there's a profession now, look it up, it's called death doula, where a person will actually sit by a dying person, not a family person, these are professionals, and help you transition out of this world, help you die, basically, with, whatever it is, with prayers, with counseling, with whatever it is. Now, both of them have said that the final moments when that body is just being dropped, there is such peace in that person's eyes. There is such knowing that it is unbelievable. And I didn't believe it till the time when my father-in-law actually died in my arms. I was holding him. It was just me and him. Nobody else in the room, not even the doctors. We were in the hospital, not even the nurses. It was just me and him. And literally, I saw the last breath also escape. But those few moments with those steel glass eyes that he was staring at me, the peace, I swear to the heavens, I have never experienced such peace. I joked about this to Swami Swarupananda, when I was relating that death to him. And I said, I have not experienced, I fell into an aura of peace because I was literally holding him and staring into his eyes. It actually felt like nothing in the world mattered. And there was no pain, there was no whatever that last, breathlessness was there in leaving was the body's reaction. But the peace that was there within was unbelievable. And this is what kind of certifies what we are trying to say, is that the Dehi, your own subtle body, will decide when it is time to leave. No fate, no destiny, no pre-written laws, clause, no patrika, no horoscope can say this is the moment that you are going to die. Because as we've seen in the Air India crash, that horrific crash that happened in Ahmedabad, the entire plane burned to ash. Everybody died, save that one man. Because that one man's Dehi knew it was not time for him to pass away in that, when nothing could have been saved. So when we talk about leaving the body, the inner dweller, the indweller, the subtle body is fully conscious, fully cohesive, fully signing on the paper, yes, I am ready to go. Now you'll ask one very particular, you have to listen to this part properly. You will ask two questions. One question is, then why is the person who's dying, why is that person sad? If that person internally knows that this body is not going to serve whatever my vasanas are, Why is that person sad? We see so many dying people who are suppose diagnosed with terminal cancer or whatever. They are besides themselves. The only explanation to that is because they are very distant from this truth. They are very distant from this Atma. They are very distant from this particular verse, that it's not ending here. They have either not been ever heard it, ever conceptualized it, or they don't believe it, or are too stuck in the body, mind, intellect, reality over here in this world. So that is that, number one. Second thing is fear of the unknown. I mean, however you are, you know this reality. Even if you're like, I'm seeing my mother-in-law, she's completely bedridden now. And poor thing, at 90, every day she asks me this question. Is it scary? Where will I go? Where will I go? And she's a woman who's taught Bhagavad Gita classes all her life. In fact, all the Chinmay Mission sevikas, household sevikas that are today teaching in Singapore, all of them, A to Z, my mother-in-law has physically trained them to teach the Bhagavad Gita. So even for the wisest, that fear of the unknown is what is said in the Bhagavad Gita true. Where am I going? So that's the second thing, fear of the unknown. And third, I don't have to mention it, but of course, what will happen to these people around me? How will they survive without me? So that feeling that we are indispensable in people's life, I've got goosebumps and I'm getting teary. That feeling that how can these people live without me is what makes us really, 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 really fearful about death. But when you start understanding the Bhagavad Gita, all of these three things you will be able to overcome slowly and steadily. That is for you. Now, about the people who are being left behind, even if they don't understand this, if you understand the shloka, suppose if somebody very close to me is dying, okay, and I understand the shloka properly, what have I understood from the shloka? That this person, the indweller, has completely fulfilled whatever they have come to experience. And the next step is one step higher. They're going to go into another place where they can exhaust their vasanas, they can fulfill their karmas. In this body, they cannot do it. It's like, suppose if your best friend at work gets a promotion to become CIO or CEO or something like that. Are you going to mourn it or are you going to celebrate it? If a job is not just working for you, when you shift to a new job, are you going to mourn it or celebrate it? You have to start thinking about these lines. So we are holding on to something because we know it, but it's not serving our trajectory at all. So when I, as a person of a loved one who's dying, understands this, there is a quiet celebration within. And again, go back to that word attachment. When we cry over somebody dying, it is not, if we've understood that verse, we will not cry over that person dying, but we will cry over the fact that whatever need was being catered within us by this person all these years, whether it was love, whether it was financial stability, whether it was just company, just being a companion, that is what we are mourning. And of course, we should mourn. I mean, everybody, Sai Baba cried when his great, most dearest disciple passed away. All the gurus of the world will shed tears when somebody good or somebody near dies. But to think it is the end and to make it the end of everything, that is what we have to start getting over. Now, unfortunately, I lost my mother when I was only 7 years old. And at that point, I thought my life has come to an end. But here I am, decades later, life went just fine. Of course, at every turn, I missed, perhaps not her because I didn't understand her that much, but I did miss that entity who could have been a mother to help me through various, points in my life. You're understanding. So what are we missing? We are missing that which is being catered to within us. We are not missing the person as such. I told you all that one incident when a woman's husband died in Coimbatore, and the body had to be taken to Chennai in a truck. And some relative had to sit with that body. The wife refused. She said, I'm scared of the dead body. So is the body that is going to be burnt over here, is that what we are attached to? Are we attached to the body? No, we are attached to the indweller. And then I'll give you one more consolation. Our karmas are so deep. I hope one of us, at least from this panel, merges with, infinite and becomes Brahman or whatever. But for most of us, perhaps this punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle is going to go on for a while. So this much I will assure you from whatever I'm reading about near-death experiences, about through science as well, all the fantastic attachments that you have in your life are coming back with you in another concept on this earth. And all the people that you hate very, very aggressively, they are also coming back to chukau those karmas. So nobody is going anywhere. Everything is coming back to you. It is just a comma. So when we look at this verse, we have to start thinking on these lines that there is a progression, there is a transition. If somebody is going for a holiday in Switzerland and the next stop is Goa or somewhere that's much warmer, you're going to change the clothes. You can't take those winter clothes from skiing and go to and sit on a beach in Goa. You can't do that. So when whatever vasanas you have come with are finished over here, you will drop that body, that circumstance, those people who are only there to help you go through that particular vasana. You will drop all of it to go to the next set of vasanas. So very, very, very important to understand this. Now, again, one more last thing I'd like to say before I finish this is that yes, we need the scriptures to give you the praman, to give you the knowledge, to give you the right base. But if you can just focus on what these verses are saying, like Rajeshji said, the entire Bhagavad Gita is Tattvamasi. You are that. So if you have to really understand what is life, what is death, all you have to understand, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm the eternal Atma. It ends there. That's it. That's the truth. And yet for years and years and years and years, we are in various Vedanta classes. And we're still where we are when we started. Nisargadatta Maharaj, I've quoted him before. He was a son, illiterate son of a person who in India goes to, wash people's toilets and homes and, all those kinds of things. And he himself owned a BD stall, not even cigarette. BD, the Indian BD, he owned that BD stall. And he became one of the greatest saints, self-realized saints of the world. The Westerners have taken to him more than the Indians have also. And the kind of wisdom he spoke, he had never read a single book. And when they asked him, how do you know all of this? He said, my guru only told me one thing. Tattvam Asi. That is what I meditated on. That is what I meditated on to such extent, to such depth, I dropped everything else. And here I am. So really, the Bhagavad Gita, though it's speaking one line, the way they're explaining it, look at the example that he's given. Changing clothes. How lightly Krishna has said, the way you take your own clothes, throw it away and go to a next outfit, that is death. If we understand this fully and really meditate on this, then what comes next as to how to live the life, how to change these clothes nicely will become very, very relevant in our lives. So just think about it. Just read the entire commentary, this particular commentary. We've done a good job with it, I think, in the book. So before you come back, please read the entire commentary. And then you can, during the week, you can ask question and answers also, or you can bring it back to the next class. You're muted, Rajeshji.
Sorry, I was saying that you can give the reflection and the quote also. With that, we'll conclude. I completed mine.
So the reflection is, do you fear death as the end of your existence? How might adopting the perspective of the Atma as eternal help alleviate your fears? Exactly what I just said. Not only your death, all our loved ones. What is born must die. How would this particular shloka, especially after you read the commentary, make you fear your own death or everybody else's death less? Knowing two things. Not only knowing that you're eternal Atma, because that is difficult to comprehend just now, but just knowing what this particular verse has said, that something in you is going to continue. Your subtle body is going to continue. It's just a comma. It's not a full stop. How will you address your own death and everybody else's death? And then the quote is, what you wear is transient. As in, this particular body is transient. It's not forever. Who you are is eternal. Again, I'll highlight two realities. Your subtle body is relatively more imperishable than your physical body and your physical circumstances. So it will go on for a while. So you will still have yourself for a while. And of course, ultimately, this verse is not talking about that, but you are the Atma, and that in fact is eternal.